Welcome to World News. Tonight, frank talk from the future Secretary of Defense, who says the U.S. is not winning in Iraq, and that U.S. troops will be needed there for a long time. After childbirth, the largest study ever on the mental health of new mothers. They face greater danger than anyone realized. To the rescue, new developments in the search for a father who braved the wilderness to save his family. How his wife kept their children alive. And having a blast. The women's movement reviving an American sport and discovering the thrill of the hunt.
From ABC News headquarters, this is World News with Charles Gibson.
Good evening. A confirmation hearing on Capitol Hill is, in essence, a job interview with TV cameras. Robert Gates, who will replace Donald Rumsfeld as Defense Secretary, had his hearing today. He told the senators the U.S. is not winning the war in Iraq. And he talked in rather blunt terms about the mistakes he feels the administration has made. He's going to get the job. The Senate Armed Services Committee voted unanimously in his favor, to some extent as a reward for his candor today. Our national security correspondent, Jonathan Karl, was at the hearing.
The question was direct, and so was the answer.
Do you believe that we are currently winning in Iraq?
No, sir.
A few minutes later,
We are not winning the war in Iraq, is that correct?
That is my view, yes, sir.
And therefore the status quo is not acceptable.
That is correct, sir.
after a short break, Gates sought to clarify.
I certainly stand by my statement this morning that we are not winning, but we are not losing. But I want to make clear that pertains to the situation in Iraq as a whole. Our military forces win the battles that they fight.
But all day long, Gates strayed from the White House script, even on the biggest question of all.
With that benefit of hindsight, would you say that invading Iraq was the right decision or the wrong decision?
I think it's too soon to tell.
Gates identified several mistakes he believes have been made: disbanding the Iraqi army, underestimating the job of rebuilding the country, and not sending enough troops.
I suspect in hindsight some of the folks in the administration probably would not make the same decisions that they made, and I think one of those is that there clearly were insufficient troops in Iraq after the initial invasion to establish control over the country.
Several senators praised Gates and took shots at his boss.
Now, in short, should we believe you or the president on the critical issue whether the administration is really willing to make a change in its policy?
If I'm confirmed, I'll be independent. I intend to draw my own conclusions, and I'll make my recommendations. But I can assure you that I don't owe anybody anything.
U.S. troops will remain in Iraq for a long time, he said, but there may be far fewer of them.
The pressures of the hearing are nothing compared to the pressures I got from a woman who came over to me at the hotel while I was having dinner the other night. And she said, "I have 2 sons in Iraq. For God's sake, bring them home safe."
When asked about Syria and Iran, Gates sounded eager to avoid another war.
I think that military action against Iran would be an absolute last resort. We have seen in Iraq that once war is unleashed, it becomes unpredictable. And I think that the consequences of a conflict, a military conflict with Iran, could be quite dramatic.
On Iraq, Gates said that all options are on the table, but he mostly dodged questions when asked what specifically he would do differently. He said he first plans to travel to Iraq, meet with the military commanders, and Charlie, read that all-important Iraq study group recommendations, which will be released tomorrow.
Jonathan Karl reporting from Washington tonight. We're also bringing in our chief Washington correspondent, George Stephanopoulos. And George, let me start where John just finished, because Gates did not say what he would do or what he thinks the administration ought to do now in Iraq.
In fact, he said, Charlie, there are no new ideas on Iraq. The question is, how do you put together what's out there in a new way that provides a path forward? That Iraq study group is going to be key in that process, and I think Gates's reaction is very much like how Republicans and Democrats are going to react to the Iraq study group. They're not going to treat it as a complete answer. They're not going to embrace it whole. They're going to treat it more like a Chinese menu, picking out what they like, ignoring what they don't like.
But it is obvious Gates went over very well.
No question. In the words of one Senate aide, he was the anti-Rumsfeld. He was direct. He is deferential. He didn't pretend to have all the answers. That's why he's going to sail through.
Now, you did mention that the Baker-Hamilton report comes tomorrow. The ISG report, as it's called, the Iraq Study Group. There are other reports to come on things that might be done in Iraq. So what do the President and Gates do with them?
Well, the President has 2 more reports coming out. He's asked his National Security Advisor to do a review. He's asked the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff to do a review. But what the White House is pointing towards is for the President to come before the country with his recommendations for a new strategy by Christmas.
All right, George Stephanopoulos also reporting from Washington. Thanks. And ABC News will have live coverage of the Baker-Hamilton news conference beginning tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. As the search goes on for a new way forward in Iraq, some say the violence there already is spinning out of control. More than 36 civilians were killed in Baghdad alone today. It is often impossible to get the full story behind some of the bombings and massacres ravaging Iraq, but tonight we do have details on one case of mass murder there in a small town east of Baghdad. ABC's Dan Harris is in Baghdad.
28 Shiites shot and left for dead in a village north of Baghdad. Under normal circumstances, this slaughter might not have drawn more notice than this brief military press release, saying the incident is currently under investigation. Just another addition to the daily catalog of sectarian savagery. But one man, a 30-year-old farmer and father of 4 named Akil Hashim Jadoo, says he survived this mass murder. He brought about a dozen family members, the army, and a video camera back to document what happened. Jadoo says members of a Sunni tribe kidnapped, bound, and blindfolded him and the other men and took them to this marsh. They started shooting, he says, and I started praying. Then, Jadoo says, the killers shot each man in the head, one by one. But since my blindfold was stained with blood, he says, they thought I was dead. Before the killers left, Jadoo says one of them hesitated, saying, I want to make sure they are dead. These Shiites take a long time to die. The leaders of Jadoo's tribe, who are followers of the radical Shiite cleric Muqtada al-Sadr, told ABC News the killers are Sunni tribesmen trying to scare Shiites out of a mixed area. But they say they are not optimistic and may have to take matters into their own hands, implying that they will perhaps respond with violence of their own.
It's just one incident, but it's indicative of a dangerous dynamic that many here believe has taken hold, an unstoppable spiral of religion-fueled revenge. Dan Harris, ABC News, Baghdad.
There are significant developments to report tonight in the poisoning death of former Russian spy Alexander Litvinenko. A British official tells ABC News that British detectives have identified a prime suspect, a man who also once was a Russian spy. But now the British detectives are finding they will not get cooperation from Russia. ABC senior foreign correspondent Jim Shuto is again tonight in London.
British detectives had just arrived in Moscow when Russian officials said they would not let them see the man they consider their prime suspect, former Russian spy Andrei Lugovoy. He was unavailable, Russian officials said, hospitalized with signs of radiation poisoning. In fact, Russia's top prosecutor said the British could not speak with any witnesses on their own and could not extradite them to Britain if they're charged. We will be asking the questions, he said, not Scotland Yard. Tonight, a senior British official tells ABC News the Russian government is obstructing the investigation, even as more and more signs point to Russia and Lugovoy. ABC News has reconstructed Lugovoy's movements and found a trail of deadly polonium-210 from Moscow to London, right up to the day he met Litvinenko at this London hotel. October 25th, 1 week before Litvinenko was poisoned, Lugovoy flies to London. Both his plane and his hotel, the Sheraton, test positive for radiation. October 31st, 1 day before the poisoning, Lugovoy returns to London. Again, his plane, his hotel, now the Millennium, and a soccer stadium he visits all test positive. And today, word that Lugovoy himself may be contaminated. Before he was hospitalized, Lugovoy promised to cooperate in the investigation. I have to, he said, to avoid any speculation. There is more than speculation linking Lugovoy to the case, but tonight there is still no sign Russia will let him speak to British investigators anytime soon. Jim Sciutto, ABC News, London.
And some news tonight from NASA, going public with a bold plan to return to the moon and eventually have astronauts stay there for 6 months at a stretch. NASA plans to set up a lunar polar base camp, with the first crew landing in the year 2020 and the permanent outpost finished 4 years later. No word on what the price tag might be. Still ahead on this broadcast, some surprising research on risks faced by new mothers. They are at greater risk than previously thought, and that'll be our closer look. Late developments in the search for the father lost in the wilderness, how he risked his life to save his wife and children. And look who's calling the shots. The sport, not just for men anymore, women reviving an American pastime.
This is World News with Charles Gibson. Brought to you by TD Ameritrade.
Meet Beth Griffin, investor.
A great restaurant doesn't just happen. You have to pay attention to every detail. So when it comes to managing my investments, anything that makes my life easier and saves me time is definitely welcome.
TD Ameritrade offers tools and services to help you stay on top of your investments. And innovative investment services like Amerivest can help you easily create a diversified portfolio. Independence. It's the spirit that drives America's most successful investors.
Hey, Bart!
You got a cough that won't quit? This Robitussin will get it under control.
Donna, you've got the flu. This Robitussin will help you feel better.
No matter what you've got, there's Robitussin Relief with your name on it.
When Dad was first diagnosed with Alzheimer's, I thought, what if I have to put him in a nursing home? I talked to his doctor and found out more about prescription Aricept.
It's thought that Aricept may reduce the breakdown of a vital chemical in the brain. As the disease advances and more nerve cells emit this chemical are lost, the overall effect of Aricept may lessen.
Our doctor said Aricept was one treatment option for mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease. Studies show it helps maintain overall function, which may include effects on memory and behavior. Aricept is well tolerated, but not for everyone. People at risk for stomach ulcers or who take certain other medicines should tell their doctors because serious stomach problems such as bleeding may get worse. Some people may experience fainting. Common side effects are nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, not sleeping well, muscle cramps, feeling tired, or not feeling hungry. In studies, these were usually mild and temporary. Don't wait. Ask your doctor about Aricept. If it helps him be more like himself longer, that's everything to us.
The best in German engineering. A powerful motor. And a handling system for precision and control from Braun. Introducing the world's first electric shaver with the expertise of Gillette blade technology. Precisely angled edges cut hair more effectively with every stroke. For Braun's closest, most comfortable shave ever. It even cleans and renews itself. The new 360 Complete from Braun. Precision, control, perfection.
Cancer runs in Lisa Garcia's family. And right now, 8,000 Merck scientists are working to fight cancer and other diseases, like obesity, heart disease, and Alzheimer's. Merck, where patients come first.
We are going to take a closer look tonight at perhaps the most serious risk faced by new mothers, postpartum depression. A study released today, the largest of its kind ever done, confirms as many as 15% of new moms suffer from postpartum depression and lose the joys of what should be one of the happiest times in life. Here's ABC's John McKenzie.
Oh, she's beautiful.
Congratulations.
The birth of a child, a wondrous, joyous event.
Childbirth is a potent inducer of psychiatric episodes in women.
This study followed more than 630,000 first-time mothers, none of whom had any history of psychiatric problems. Researchers found the most dangerous time for a new mother was much earlier than ever imagined, and the risks much higher. Just 10 to 19 days after giving birth, women were 7 times more likely than other women to suffer a severe mental illness. Not only depression, but bipolar disorder, even schizophrenia.
I did nothing but cry. I didn't want to be with my son. I just pretty much went through the paces.
For Lisa Chalice, depression hit days after she gave birth to her son Dax.
It was an awful feeling, and it just kind of took over my life.
Doctors say new mothers are more prone to psychiatric illness, even requiring hospitalization, because they're not only going through massive hormonal changes.
There's also a lot of just physiologic things going on with the way their heart works and their lungs work and their appetite. They also typically are very sleep deprived.
For many women, their illness goes undiagnosed.
Women don't want to go into an obstetrician and say, yeah, I have this beautiful new baby, thank you, but I don't feel like myself and I'm really depressed, and burst into tears.
If untreated, postpartum depression can last months, even years, and disrupt the entire family. John McKenzie, ABC News, New York.
And joining me now is ABC medical editor Dr. Tim Johnson. So, we know that a mother who just gave birth is 7 times more likely to suffer depression than other women. So as a doctor, once you know that, what do you know?
Well, I think this study, Charlie, argues for competent and mandatory mental health screening on all new mothers somewhere between the 2nd and 3rd week after delivery. These problems are still too often misdiagnosed or not diagnosed at all because, as pointed out, the mother doesn't want to complain. And even when she does, the family and doctors don't take it seriously. They tend to say to her, well, this is normal, just grin and bear it. We have to have competent screening that finds these problems and therefore allows us to treat them early.
And if you find the problem, you treat it with antidepressants?
Antidepressant, if the problem is depression. Other medications if the problem is bipolar or psychosis. But there are medications for all of these conditions, and the sooner you give them, the shorter the period of suffering for the mother and less interruption for the family.
And there's time before antidepressants take effect. In that period of time, you worry about the health of the baby or the welfare of the mom?
Yes, you do. And if the problem is really serious, you may have to hospitalize to prevent any problems from developing until the medications kick in.
All right, but it does certainly call attention to the problem.
Absolutely.
All right, Dr. Tim Johnson, thanks. Postpartum depression is a difficult issue, and if you have questions, Tim will be answering them online. You can log on to our website, abcnews.com. Coming up, desperate days, what 3 family members did to survive in the wilderness, and how the 4th risked everything to save them all.
A lot of people have trouble sleeping, but they don't all have the same trouble. Some can turn off and stay awake for hours. Others turn off right away and wake up again later. Many people have both problems. That's why people are asking their doctors for controlled-release formula Ambien CR, the latest Ambien. It's the only one with 2 layers that work differently. One dissolves quickly to help you fall asleep fast. The other dissolves slowly to help you stay asleep. Ambien CR is a treatment option you and your doctor can consider along with lifestyle changes and can be taken for as long as your doctor recommends. Until you know how Ambien CR will affect you, you shouldn't drive or operate machinery. Be sure you're able to devote 7 to 8 hours to sleep before being active again. Side effects may include next-day drowsiness, dizziness, and headache. It's non-narcotic. However, like most sleep medicines, it has some risk of dependency. Don't take it with alcohol. A good night's sleep shouldn't be an on-off thing. Falling asleep and staying asleep can make a big difference. So ask your doctor about controlled-release formula Ambien CR. Remember, CR.
Science suggests vitamin D is a key to calcium absorption, which helps keep bones strong. New improved Caltrate has more vitamin D. Keep your bones strong to keep your body strong. New Caltrate, the key to strong bones.
You've been looking forward to a celebration this big all year. It's Red Lobster's Big Seafood Festival, a feast of new combinations of our biggest seafood. Indulge in rock lobster tail, king crab, and jumbo scampi. Only at Red Lobster.
Putting breaking news into the hands of 1 million readers a day, Carl is a formidable man. But he was no match for something smaller than a drop of ink. It KO'd Carl so fast he didn't know what hit him. It was a clot. Like Carl, if you've been hospitalized with heart-related chest pain or a certain type of heart attack, what doctors call ACS, chances are you've had a clot. But now, Carl's doctor is helping increase Carl's protection against heart attack or stroke by putting Carl on Plavix. Plavix, in combination with aspirin and other heart medicines, helps provide greater protection against heart attack or stroke than aspirin and other heart medicines alone by helping keep blood platelets from sticking together and forming clots.
If you have a stomach ulcer or other condition that causes bleeding, you shouldn't use Plavix. When taking Plavix alone or with some medicines, including aspirin, the risk of bleeding may increase. To minimize this risk, talk to your doctor before taking aspirin or other medicines with Plavix. Additional rare but serious side effects could occur.
Ask your doctor about Plavix today, because no matter how formidable you are, you're no match for a dangerous clot.
The search continues in Oregon for a San Francisco man missing for 10 days in the wilderness. James Kim and his family disappeared while returning from a Thanksgiving road trip to the Northwest. His wife and 2 daughters were found alive late yesterday in their car ABC's Neil Karlinski is in Grants Pass, Oregon tonight.
By air, using heat-seeking sensors, and on foot, search and rescue teams are in a race against time to find 35-year-old James Kim.
We were able to find his footprints up the roadway, and then they went into that drainage, and that's what we're working today.
In that area, police now say they found a pair of jeans matching those worn by Kim. A day earlier, rescue teams found the family's lost Saab station wagon tucked into a rural back road. After 9 days trapped inside in freezing weather, Katie Kim, her 4-year-old daughter Penelope, and 7-month-old daughter Sabine were rescued alive and in remarkably good shape.
She seemed in good spirits. She was smiling and waving when she came in the ambulance.
The family survived inside their car. When the gas ran out, they burned the car's tires. Huddled together inside, the family shared baby food. James Kim picked wild berries and melted snow for water. Katie is credited with keeping her daughters alive by breastfeeding them.
She was so happy, I think, that her children were okay. And said, Mama, I nursed those babies.
There was no cell service in the area, but the nearest cell tower did pick up a faint signal from the family's phone. Search teams used the signal to narrow their search. But James Kim had hiked out 2 days earlier to look for help. Surviving in these mountains this time of year isn't easy, even with the best of equipment. James Kim hiked off in his tennis shoes, wearing nothing but jeans and a jacket. The family's trouble began when they turned onto a little-used road in the forest. With snow falling, the windy road soon became too hard to drive. The family tried to turn around, but got stuck. This afternoon, Katie Kim and her daughters were released from the hospital.
Their sole focus right now is on waiting for news from James. And that's really where they're at this morning.
Trackers believe they're close, but in this vast, rugged terrain, finding James Kim will not be easy. Neil Karlinski, ABC News, Grants Pass, Oregon.
And the second time was the charm today in the elaborate, expensive effort to move the massive, mothballed aircraft carrier, the U.S.S. Intrepid. After a failed attempt last month, a 900-foot-long ship turned museum was finally freed from the deep mud of the Hudson River here in New York. It took a lot of dredging and 6 powerful tugboats to get her away from her dock. She now gets a $60 million overhaul in New Jersey. And up next on this broadcast, the call to arms, why there's an explosion of women going wild for hunting.
When Dad was first diagnosed with Alzheimer's, I thought, what if I have to put him in a nursing home? I talked to his doctor and found out more about prescription Aricept.
It's thought that Aricept may reduce the breakdown of a vital chemical in the brain. As the disease advances and more nerve cells that make this chemical are lost, the overall effect of Aricept may lessen.
Our doctor said Aricept was one treatment option for mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease. Studies show it helps maintain overall function, which may include effects on memory and behavior. Aricept is well tolerated, but not for everyone. People at risk for stomach ulcers or who take certain other medicines should tell their doctors because serious stomach problems such as bleeding may get worse. Some people may experience fainting. Common side effects are nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, not sleeping well, muscle cramps, feeling tired, or not feeling hungry. In studies, these were usually mild and temporary. Don't wait. Ask your doctor about Aricept. If it helps him be more like himself longer, that's everything to us.
Maud, cows are out.
I found it.
Things are easier to find when they're stuck together. Gladware interlocking lids lock together so you always know where they are. For lids that are easy to find, get Gladware interlocking lids. And for more food storage needs, get Glad food bags.
A lot of people have trouble sleeping, but they don't all have the same trouble. Some can't turn off and stay awake for hours. Others turn off right away but wake up again later. Many people have both problems. That's why people are asking their doctors for controlled-release formula Ambien CR, the latest Ambien. It's the only one with 2 layers that work differently. One dissolves quickly to help you fall asleep fast. The other dissolves slowly to help you stay asleep. Ambien CR is a treatment option you and your doctor can consider along with lifestyle changes and can be taken for as long as your doctor recommends. Until you know how Ambien CR will affect you, you shouldn't drive or operate machinery. Be sure you're able to devote 7 to 8 hours to sleep before being active again. Side effects may include next-day drowsiness, dizziness, and headache. It's non-narcotic. However, like most sleep medicines, it has some risk of dependency. Don't take it with alcohol. A good night's sleep shouldn't be an on-off thing. Falling asleep and staying asleep can make a big difference. So ask your doctor about controlled release formula Ambien CR. Remember, CR.
On this night in December, these lawyers spread good cheer.
I won. You did not.
With a fantastic episode to end the year. It's a holiday special on an all-new Boston Legal tonight, 10/9 Central, only on ABC.
Finally tonight, Annie has got her gun. And so do Martha and Sue and Janet and a lot of other women who are the new face of hunting. Women are discovering what they say is the thrill of the kill, just as the world of hunting is looking for some new blood. Here's ABC's Bill Rediker.
In Colorado, the hunt is on for hunters.
Ready for another one?
The state is trying to reverse a decade of decline by recruiting and training the next generation, sponsoring weekend hunts like this one at a pheasant preserve.
So it's no longer dad puts on his gear and goes hunting, leaves mom and the kids at home. It's now a family event that everybody goes hunting.
While programs such as this one are designed to ensure that hunters won't become an endangered species, young people are not the only ones being recruited. Women are also being called to arms.
Woohoo!
And it's paid off. The number of women hunters has soared 72% in the last 5 years. Women such as Kristen Burns are the reason why.
Women are now starting to become more independent and are starting to try things that men are doing and are actually learning that they enjoy it.
Women of all ages. Ella Tate is 15 years old.
The adrenaline rush is pretty nice when you get out there and this bird pops up and you just like to hit it.
Instructors say women prefer to hunt with other women. Call it bonding in the bird field. And they say they pick up the sport quickly.
Women tend to be a little bit easier to teach. There's not that need to show the bravado that men have. And we've had great success with teaching some of these women to be wonderful shots.
Case in point, Julie Swayze, who bags a bird on her first day out.
When you pull that trigger, there's nothing better.
Nothing?
It's way better than going to the mall.
Speaking of which, outfitters are now catering to women, marketing women's camouflage, shorter gun stocks and barrels, less powerful ammunition with a gentler kick.
Anything that has to do with the outdoors in Colorado, it seems like more and more women are participating.
Let it clear good.
Encouraging news for hunting states which depend on the $21 billion a year sport to fund wildlife conservation programs. Bill Rediker, ABC News, Meade, Colorado.
Bonding in the bird field. That is world news for this Tuesday. I'm Charlie Gibson. I'll be reporting from Washington tomorrow, speaking with James Baker and Lee Hamilton, the co-chairman of the Iraq Study Group, which makes its report public for the first time tomorrow. I hope you had a good day. For all of us at ABC News, have a good night.
Friday night, journey with Diane Sawyer across a border closed to all outsiders into a distant land, a land we fear and know so little about. We've seen the pictures, the all-powerful leader, defiant, fearless. But what don't we know now about this most secretive land? Friday, you will see. Diane Sawyer, the landmark trip that broke through North Korea, Inside the Shadows, a primetime special event, Friday night at 9/8 Central on ABC.